The elevator hums softly as it climbs to the 42nd floor of the Meridian Tower, carrying me toward another day at Blackstone Financial Advisory. Through the glass walls, Chicago's skyline stretches endlessly, Lake Michigan glinting like polished steel in the morning sun. My reflection stares back from the elevator doors, navy blazer pressed to perfection, portfolio case gripped in manicured hands, the gold nameplate reading Alexandra Chen, Senior Portfolio Analyst, catching the fluorescent light. I'd love to know which corner of the globe you're watching from, and if this story speaks to you, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's video is one you absolutely can't miss. 26 years old, and I've already surpassed every career milestone I set for myself in college. The promotion to senior analyst came with the corner office, a salary that lets me afford my Lincoln Park apartment without roommates, and the respect of colleagues who trust me with million-dollar investment strategies. Yet, as I step into the pristine lobby of our investment firm, I can't shake the familiar knot that forms in my stomach every Tuesday morning. Tuesday means the weekly call home to Portland. My heels click against the marble floor as I navigate toward my office, exchanging morning pleasantries with the receptionist and nodding to David Martinez, my department head, who's already immersed in market reports. The morning routine feels like armor. Coffee first, black with 1 sugar, then emails, then the market's opening bell that signals another day of making money move in the right directions for our clients. "Morning, Alex," calls Jennifer Walsh from her cubicle. She's scrolling through overnight market movements, her second monitor displaying international futures. "Crude oil's up again. Your energy sector predictions from last month are looking brilliant." I settle into my office chair, the city sprawling below through floor-to-ceiling windows. "Thanks, Jen. Any word from the Morrison account yet?" "They loved your renewable energy portfolio proposal. David wants to discuss implementation strategy at the 10 o'clock meeting." The Morrison account represents 18 months of careful research, late nights building financial models, and weekend conferences to understand emerging clean technology markets. If they approve my recommendations, it means managing a $47 million investment strategy. The kind of responsibility that should make any parent proud. Should. My phone buzzes with a text from my younger brother, Kevin. "Called Mom yesterday. She asked if you're still playing office worker in Chicago. Thought you should know." Playing office worker. The phrase hits like a small slap, familiar and stinging. I set the phone aside and pull up the Morrison files, losing myself in the comforting precision of numbers and projections. Here, in this glass tower surrounded by Bloomberg terminals and quarterly reports, my competence isn't questioned. Here, my expertise generates real results that people pay serious money to access. The morning passes in a blur of client calls and market analysis. I present my renewable energy recommendations to David and the senior partners, fielding technical questions about risk assessment and projected returns with the confidence that comes from knowing I've done the work. David nods approvingly as I walk them through 18 different scenarios, my PowerPoint slides crisp and comprehensive. "Excellent work, Alexandra," says Margaret Stone, the managing partner, after the presentation concludes. "I'm recommending we move forward with your strategy. The Morrison family specifically requested that you lead the implementation personally." The meeting ends with handshakes and scheduling discussions. $47 million will move according to my analysis and recommendations. The weight of that responsibility should feel overwhelming, but instead it energizes me. This is what I trained for, what I'm good at, what matters. Back in my office, I allow myself exactly 3 minutes to savor the victory before diving into the next project. The Patterson Retirement Fund needs rebalancing, and I've identified some concerning volatility in their international holdings. My fingers fly across the keyboard, building new models, testing different allocation strategies. At 12:30, my assistant Rachel pops her head in. "Your lunch meeting with the Hastings group got moved to Thursday. You have an opening if you want to grab something." "Thanks, I'll just order in. Too much to catch up on." She nods and disappears. The office gradually empties for lunch, leaving me in the peaceful quiet of afternoon sunlight and humming computers. I order a quinoa salad from the place downstairs and continue working, the familiar rhythm of analysis and decision-making filling the space where anxiety usually lives. My personal phone rings at exactly 3 o'clock Pacific time, 6 Eastern. The weekly call. "Hi, Mom." "Alexandra, there's my big city girl. How are you, sweetheart?" Catherine Rodriguez, she kept her maiden name when she married Dad, speaks with the particular brightness that means she's multitasking. I can hear pots clattering in the background, probably preparing dinner for Dad's return from his accounting firm.
I'm good, Mom. Busy day at work. Just closed a major account. That's nice, honey. Are you eating enough? You looked thin in that photo Kevin posted last month. I'm eating fine. I actually just ordered lunch. I lean back in my chair, watching afternoon shadows lengthen across downtown Chicago. The new account is really exciting. It's a sustainable energy investment portfolio worth almost $50 million. Mm-hmm. And you're handling this all by yourself? The question carries that familiar undertone of skepticism, gentle but persistent. Well, I have a team, but yes, I design the strategy and I'll be managing the implementation. That sounds like a lot of responsibility for someone your age. Are you sure you're not getting in over your head? Through my office window, I can see other professionals in the building across the street, bent over their desks and computers, managing their own millions and billions in a city built on financial expertise. None of them are fielding questions about whether they're qualified for their jobs. I've been doing this for 4 years, Mom. I have my CFA certification, and my track record speaks for itself. I know, sweetheart, but sometimes these big companies give young people fancy titles to make them feel important, while the real decisions get made higher up. Your father and I just worry that you're not seeing the bigger picture. The knot in my stomach tightens. What do you mean? Well, investment banking, portfolio management, all of that, it's not exactly a stable career path, is it? The markets go up and down, companies fold, people get laid off. Remember what happened in 2008? I close my eyes, counting slowly to 5. We've had this conversation in various forms for the past 3 years, ever since I moved to Chicago and started climbing the corporate ladder. Mom, I'm not in investment banking. I'm in financial advisory services, and our firm has been stable for over 60 years. But don't you think it might be wise to have a backup plan, something more concrete? Your cousin Sarah just got her teaching certificate, and you know teachers always have job security. Cousin Sarah, who lives in Mom's basement and substitutes at the local elementary school twice a week, I think of the Morrison account, of Margaret Stone's handshake, of the quarterly bonuses that let me contribute to my retirement fund and still travel to conferences in New York and San Francisco. My career is concrete, Mom. I have contracts, benefits, and a 401k. Last year, I made more than Dad does at his firm. The silence on the other end stretches long enough that I wonder if the call dropped. When Mom speaks again, her voice has shifted to that particular tone she uses when she thinks I'm being unrealistic. Money isn't everything, Alexandra, and it's not healthy to compare yourself to your father like that. He's built a solid, respectable practice over 30 years. That kind of stability takes time. I'm not comparing myself to anyone. I'm just trying to explain that what I do is real work with real results. Of course it's real work, honey. We're just concerned that you're putting all your eggs in one basket. What happens if the economy turns? What happens if your company decides to downsize? You don't have tenure like teachers do, or the kind of professional credentials that transfer anywhere. I look at my CFA certificate hanging on the wall next to my MBA diploma from Northwestern, both representing years of intensive study and examination. My credentials absolutely transfer, Mom. The Chartered Financial Analyst designation is recognized globally. Well, if you say so, I just think it wouldn't hurt to keep your options open. Maybe think about coming home for a while, getting your feet under you in a more stable environment. The conversation continues for another 15 minutes, meandering through family updates and gentle suggestions about real careers and putting down roots. By the time I hang up, the afternoon energy has drained from my body like air from a punctured balloon. I sit in my office chair, surrounded by the evidence of my professional competence, client files, market analyses, commendation letters from satisfied investors, and feel the familiar confusion that follows these calls. How can two realities exist so completely apart from each other? In this building, I'm Alexander Chen, the analyst who correctly predicted the tech sector correction and saved our clients millions in losses. At home, I'm still the little girl playing dress-up in business clothes. Rachel appears in my doorway with a stack of documents.
The Patterson reports you requested, and David wants to know if you can stay late tonight to review the quarterly projections. Of course, I say, grateful for the distraction. Tell him I'll have the preliminary analysis ready by 8.
A lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. If you're enjoying it, we'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to our channel. Now, back to where we left off. As evening settles over Chicago, the office empties around me. I work under the warm glow of my desk lamp, surrounded by the quiet confidence of numbers that add up correctly, projections that follow logical patterns, and clients who trust my expertise enough to let me manage their financial futures. Outside my window, the city lights begin to twinkle, each one representing someone's life, someone's work, someone's contribution to the vast network of productivity and progress. Somewhere among those lights are other daughters whose parents question their career choices, other professionals whose expertise gets dismissed by the people who raise them. I check my phone and see a missed text from Kevin. "Mom said you had another one of your career conversations. You okay?" I type back, "Always am, just tired." But as I gather my things to head home to my Lincoln Park apartment, the one I pay for with my unstable career, I wonder what it would feel like to have family conversations that didn't leave me questioning my own accomplishments. What it would be like to share professional victories without them being met with concern rather than celebration. The elevator descends through 42 floors of legitimate business, carrying me away from a place where my competence is never questioned, toward a world where it somehow remains forever in doubt. The memory surfaces unbidden as I sit in Thursday morning traffic on Lakeshore Drive, watching joggers weave along the lakefront path. I'm suddenly 19 again, standing in the campus career center at Northwestern, clutching my first internship offer from Goldman Sachs. The salary was more than Dad made in 2 months at his small Portland accounting firm. But when I called home with the news, Mom's first question wasn't, "Congratulations." "Are you sure it's legitimate, honey? Those big Wall Street companies, they're always in the news for scandals." Even then, 3 years into my finance degree, the pattern was already established. Every achievement came with a caveat. Every success carried an asterisk of concern. The traffic light changes and I accelerate past Millennium Park, its steel sculptures catching the morning sun. My phone connects automatically to the car's Bluetooth, and Spotify shuffles to a classical playlist, something I've grown to love during these contemplative drives to work. The music provides a soundtrack to the mental slideshow of moments I've been collecting without realizing it. Sophomore year, Dean's List. That's wonderful, sweetheart, but don't let your grades become more important than having a social life. Junior year, acceptance into the competitive financial modeling competition. Are you sure you want to spend your spring break working instead of relaxing? You're only young once. Senior year, job offer from Blackstone Financial Advisory with a starting salary of $85,000. That seems like an awful lot of money for someone just out of college. Are you certain they're not expecting more than you can deliver? I pull into the parking garage beneath Meridian Tower, the familiar ritual of badge scanning and elevator riding providing a brief respite from the mental archaeology. But even here, surrounded by the concrete evidence of my professional world, the memories continue their excavation. The graduation party, where Dad introduced me to his colleagues as our daughter who thinks she's gonna conquer Wall Street. The laugh that followed, good-natured but dismissive, as if my ambitions were charming but ultimately naive. The first Christmas after I started at Blackstone, when I tried to explain derivatives and risk management to Uncle Robert, only to have him pat my shoulder and say, "Well, as long as you're learning something useful." Learning something useful. As if the mathematical models that govern billions of dollars in global capital were somehow less valuable than knowing how to change a tire or bake a casserole. My office feels like a sanctuary this morning, insulated from the steady drip of familial skepticism by 42 floors and 800 miles. Jennifer is already at her desk analyzing overnight Asian markets, her screen filled with green and red numbers that tell the story of global economic movement. "Morning, Alice. The Yamamoto Group loved your presentation yesterday. They want to schedule a follow-up for next week." "Excellent. Can you set up the conference room with the international video setup? Mr. Yamamoto prefers the formal presentation environment."
As Jennifer nods and makes notes, I catch my reflection in my computer monitor. Professional, competent,
trusted with massive financial decisions by people who've never met me in person, but respect my expertise enough to entrust me with their international investments. The cognitive dissonance feels sharper this morning, the gap between who I am here and who I apparently am in my parents' perception. David Martinez appears in my doorway, holding a coffee and wearing the satisfied expression that means good news. Alex, great work on the Morrison implementation. They've already seen a 12% return in the first month. Margaret wants you to present your methodology to the full partnership next Friday. Presenting to the full partnership means 18 senior executives who collectively manage over $2 billion in client assets. It means my strategies are being recognized not just as effective, but as innovative enough to become company-wide methodology. I'll have the presentation ready, I say, already mentally organizing the key points and supporting data. Also, David continues, settling into the chair across from my desk, I've been meaning to discuss your career trajectory. You're outperforming every analyst at your level, and frankly, several who are senior to you. Have you given thought to what you want your next 5 years to look like? The question should thrill me. David is essentially asking about my path to partnership, to joining the executive level that shapes company direction and earns 7-figure bonuses. Instead, I feel a familiar tightness in my chest, the same sensation that accompanies every professional milestone. I'd love to discuss expansion into international markets, I say. The global economy is shifting, and I think we're positioned to capture emerging opportunities in Southeast Asia and renewable energy sectors. We spend 20 minutes outlining potential directions for my career development. David mentions executive MBA programs, leadership training seminars, and the possibility of opening a West Coast branch office that I might head within 3 years. By the time he leaves, I have a clear roadmap to becoming one of the youngest partners in company history. And all I can think about is Tuesday's phone call. That sounds like a lot of responsibility for someone your age. The voice echoes in my head as I review quarterly performance reports. Every client under my management has exceeded projected returns. The Patterson Retirement Fund is up 18%. The Hendricks Family Trust has outperformed the S&P 500 by 11 points. The Morrison Sustainable Energy Portfolio is tracking exactly according to my 18-month projections. Numbers don't lie. Results don't equivocate. Yet somehow, 800 miles away, my expertise remains theoretical. Lunch arrives via delivery, a Mediterranean wrap and sparkling water, and I eat while reviewing market news from Tokyo and London. The global nature of financial markets means my day started while Tokyo was closing, and my evening decisions will influence trading that happens after London opens tomorrow. The interconnectedness feels profound, meaningful, important. My personal phone buzzes with a text from Kevin. Dad asked me yesterday if I thought you were actually making the money you claim to make. Told him about your apartment and car. He said those things can be financed and don't prove income. I stare at the message, feeling something cold settle in my stomach. Claim to make. As if my salary is fictional. My success is a performance for family gatherings. I think about my last performance review, where Margaret Stone called my analytical skills exceptional and my client relationships exemplary. I think about the quarterly bonus that let me pay cash for my Honda Civic instead of financing it. I think about the retirement contributions that are building a foundation for financial independence by age 40. None of it translates across the distance to Portland, where success is measured in different units: job security over innovation, local reputation over professional achievement, traditional paths over unconventional excellence. My computer chimes with an instant message from Jennifer. The Hastings Group just called. They want to move their entire portfolio management to our firm. They specifically requested you as their primary analyst. It's a $40 million account. $40 million. The number should feel staggering. But after 4 years of managing increasingly large sums, it's become just another milestone. What stagger me are the implications. That wealthy, sophisticated investors trust me with their life savings based entirely on my track record and expertise.
trust that my own family seems unable to extend. The afternoon passes in a familiar rhythm of client calls and market analysis. I speak with Mrs. Patterson about rebalancing her late husband's IRA, walk the Hendricks family through their quarterly statement, and field questions from 3 new clients who were referred by existing accounts. Each conversation reinforces the same truth. In the professional world, competence speaks for itself. At 4:30, my office phone rings with a local Chicago number I don't recognize. Alexandra Chen speaking. This is Patricia Williams from Northwestern University Alumni Relations. I'm calling because we'd like to feature you in our upcoming alumni magazine. Your career trajectory since graduation has been quite impressive.
McCall lasts 15 minutes. They want to profile recent graduates who've achieved notable success in their fields. My 4 years at Blackstone, the rapid promotions, the client satisfaction scores, and the investment returns have caught their attention. They're particularly interested in featuring young women in finance as role models for current students. We'll need to verify your achievements with your employer, Patricia explains. Standard procedure for our featured profiles. Of course, you can contact David Martinez, my department head, or Margaret Stone, our managing partner. After I hang up, I sit quietly in my office, watching afternoon shadows creep across the Chicago skyline. Northwestern University wants to feature me as a success story. My employer wants to fast-track me toward partnership. My clients trust me with their financial futures. But somewhere in Portland, my parents are having conversations about whether my career is real. The contradiction feels almost surreal, like living in 2 different dimensions simultaneously. Here, I'm Alexandra Chen, financial analyst, on track to become the youngest partner in company history. There, I'm still the daughter playing dress-up in business clothes, claiming to make money that might not exist, working at a job that might not be stable. I check my phone and see another text from Kevin. Mom wants to know if you're still planning to come home for Thanksgiving. She's worried about you spending all that money on plane tickets when you could drive. The concern about plane ticket costs, roughly $300, from someone who questions whether I actually earn the salary that makes $300 insignificant. The suggestion that I drive 18 hours each way instead of flying for 2 hours. Small erosions of confidence, tiny questions that accumulate like water damage behind walls, invisible until the structure starts to weaken. I gather my things as the office empties around me, preparing for another evening in my Lincoln Park apartment, the one I afford with my imaginary salary, furnished with my fictional bonuses, secured by my theoretical career. Tomorrow will bring more client calls, more investment decisions, more evidence of professional competence that somehow never quite translates into family understanding. The pattern feels as predictable as market cycles, as reliable as compound interest. And just as impossible to break. Friday afternoon slides into evening as I finish preparing my partnership presentation, the office gradually emptying around me. The weekend stretches ahead, a rare break from client calls and market analysis. I'm looking forward to sleeping past 6 a.m. and maybe catching the new exhibit at the Art Institute. My phone buzzes with the usual weekend text from Mom. Call me when you get a chance, honey. Nothing urgent. Nothing urgent in mom speak usually means something that's been building in her mind for days, something she's discussed with Dad over morning coffee and evening news. I save my presentation files and dial home while gathering my things. Hi, Mom. Alexandra! Perfect timing. I was just making dinner. How was your week? Busy, but good. I'm presenting to the senior partnership next Friday about a new methodology I developed. That's nice, sweetheart. Listen, I need to ask you something, and I hope you won't get defensive. The familiar preface that signals an incoming critique disguised as concern. I brace myself as the elevator descends toward the parking garage. Okay. Well, your father and I have been talking, and we're a little confused about some mail that's been arriving here. Tax documents with your name on them. My stomach drops.
When I moved to Chicago 4 years ago, I kept my parents' address as my permanent mailing address for certain documents, tax forms, insurance papers, things that needed a stable location during my apartment transitions. I'd been meaning to update everything to my current address, but kept forgetting amid the demands of building my career. My W-2 forms, probably, I say, trying to keep my voice casual while unlocking my car. Sorry about that. Alexandra. Mom's tone shifts to the one she used when I was 12, and she caught me in a lie about homework. We opened one of them. The words hit like a physical blow. You opened my mail, Mom? We were concerned, she interrupts. These documents show numbers that seem, well, frankly, impossible for someone your age. I sit motionless in my car, key halfway to the ignition. What do you mean, impossible?
Honey, this W-2 says you made over $130,000 last year. That's more than your father makes, and he's been a CPA for 30 years. It has to be some kind of mistake. The number hangs in the air between us. Last year's salary, plus bonuses, every dollar earned through 70-hour weeks and weekend client calls, through mastering complex financial instruments and building relationships with investors who trust me with their life savings. It's not a mistake, Mom. That's what I made. Alexandra, be serious. Companies don't pay that kind of money to someone who's barely been out of college for 4 years. Either there's been some clerical error or... She trails off, but the implication hovers between us, like smoke. Or what? Well, we looked up this Blackstone Financial Advisory online. It's a real company, obviously, but we couldn't find your name anywhere on their website. No employee directory, no staff profiles, nothing. My hands tighten on the steering wheel. Most financial firms don't publish complete employee directories, Mom. It's a security issue. But you said you were some kind of senior analyst. Wouldn't someone in such an important position be mentioned somewhere? The question reveals the depth of their investigation, the systematic doubt that drove them to internet searches and mail tampering. I think of my corner office, my client portfolio worth hundreds of millions of dollars, my upcoming partnership presentation. None of it exists in their reality. I am a senior analyst. I manage over $400 million in client assets. $400 million? Mom's voice rises in disbelief. Alexandra, honey, I think you might be confused about what your job actually involves. Sometimes companies give young employees important sounding titles to make them feel valued, but the real responsibility lies elsewhere. The parking garage feels suddenly claustrophobic, concrete walls pressing closer as my mother systematically dismantles my professional identity. I'm not confused about my own career, Mom. Well, we also called the main number for your company. We told them we were trying to reach Alexandra Chen, and the receptionist said they don't have anyone by that name working there. The blood drains from my face. You called my office? We were worried, sweetheart. When we couldn't find any information about you online, and then these suspicious tax documents, we thought maybe someone was using your identity or you'd gotten involved in something questionable. What exactly did you say to the receptionist? Just that we were family members trying to reach Alexandra Chen. The young woman was very polite, but she said there was no employee by that name. I close my eyes, understanding exactly what happened. Our main receptionist is new, hired just 3 weeks ago. She wouldn't recognize my name yet, and our company policy strictly forbids giving out employee information to unknown callers, even claiming to be family. Mom, of course she said that. Financial firms have strict privacy policies. They don't confirm employee information to random callers. We're not random callers. We're your parents. But she doesn't know that. You could be anyone. Identity theft.
corporate espionage. These are real concerns in my industry. Alexandra. Dad's voice comes through the speaker now, deeper and more authoritative. Your mother and I are trying to help you here. These documents you've been receiving, this story about working in finance, it's starting to sound like something you might have gotten mixed up in without realizing it. Mixed up in? Financial scams, sweetheart. Mom continues. We've been reading about them online. Young people get recruited for what they think are legitimate jobs, but they're actually money laundering operations or pyramid schemes. They get fancy offices and impressive titles, but it's all fake. The accusation lands like a slap. 4 years of legitimate work, of climbing corporate ladders and earning professional certifications, reduced to a potential scam because the numbers don't fit their expectations? You think I'm involved in money laundering? We think you might be being taken advantage of, Dad says carefully. Companies that pay unrealistic salaries to inexperienced workers usually have ulterior motives. I'm not inexperienced. I have my CFA certification. I graduated summa cum laude from Northwestern. I've been promoted twice based on performance reviews.
But we can't verify any of that, Mom interrupts. The company won't acknowledge you work there, your name doesn't appear in any professional directories, and these salary figures are completely unreasonable. I start my car, needing the movement, the noise, some kind of action to counter the paralysis creeping through my limbs. So you've decided I'm either lying or being scammed. We've decided we're concerned, Dad corrects, and we think you should come home so we can figure this out together. Come home? Take a leave of absence from this questionable job and come back to Portland, where we can help you sort through whatever's really going on. The suggestion hangs between us like a trap. Come home, abandon my career, submit to their investigation of my life because my success doesn't match their expectations. I'm not taking a leave of absence. I have clients depending on me, presentations to give, accounts to manage. Alexandra. Mom's voice turns pleading. We love you and we're scared that you're in over your head with something dangerous. These financial companies, they're always in the news for illegal activities. We don't want you to get hurt. I'm not going to get hurt by doing my job. But what if it's not really your job? Dad asks quietly. What if you're being used without realizing it? The question strikes at something fundamental, challenging not just my career, but my ability to discern reality from fiction, as if I'm a child who's been tricked into believing a game is real life. I need to go, I say, backing out of my parking space with sharp, angry movements. Alexandra, don't hang up angry. We're trying to protect you. Protect me from what? From being successful? From making more money than you expected? From having a career that doesn't fit your understanding? From making a mistake that could ruin your life, Mom says softly. I end the call and drive home through Friday evening traffic, their words echoing in my head like an endless loop. Money laundering, scam, fake job, unrealistic salary, not really your job. My phone buzzes with text after text as I navigate Lakeshore Drive, each message another attempt to convince me that my professional life is an elaborate deception. Dad, we're not trying to hurt you, we just want the truth. Mom, please don't shut us out, we can work through this together. Kevin, Mom and Dad are freaking out about some tax papers. What's going on? I silence my phone and drive the rest of the way home in the quiet darkness, their doubt following me like a shadow. By the time I reach my apartment building, one truth has crystallized with brutal clarity. My family doesn't just question my career choices, they question whether my career exists at all. Saturday morning arrives gray and overcast, Lake Michigan churning with restless energy that matches my mood. My body's internal clock refuses to acknowledge weekends when crisis demands action. The conversation with my parents replays in fragments. Money laundering, fake job, unrealistic salary, not really your job. My coffee maker gurgles to life as I stand at my kitchen window, watching early joggers brave the October chill along the lakefront path.
Normal people living normal Saturday mornings, unburdened by the need to prove their careers exist. The irony doesn't lost on me that I'm planning to spend my weekend documenting my professional life for the people who should know me best. By 7 a.m., I'm dressed in casual but business-appropriate clothes. Dark jeans, navy blazer, the kind of outfit that says competent professional even on personal time. If I'm going to war for my career, I need armor that feels right. My laptop opens to a blank document that I title Professional Verification Package. The clinical name helps distance me from the emotional reality of what I'm creating, a dossier proving my own existence to my parents. First, screenshots. I captured my employee profile from the Blackstone intranet, showing my official title, department, and start date. The photo is from my second year, slightly younger but unmistakably me, wearing the same confident expression I've cultivated for client meetings. Next, my Northwestern alumni directory entry, listing my current position and contact information. Then, my CFA Institute membership profile, showing my certification status and continuing education credits. The documentation feels both empowering and humiliating. Empowering because each screenshot represents legitimate achievement, official recognition of my professional standing. Humiliating because I'm compiling evidence of my own competence for family members who should trust my word. My phone buzzes with Kevin's contact photo, the two of us at last Christmas, both smiling despite the undercurrent of family tension that followed me even then.
Hey, he says when I answer. Mom asked me to call you. She's worried about how you left things yesterday. She's worried? I save my document and lean back in my desk chair. Kevin, they accused me of being involved in financial crimes. They're scared, Alex. Dad spent all night researching financial scams online. He found all these stories about young people getting recruited into fake companies that look legitimate but are really fronts for money laundering. I close my eyes, imagining Dad at his home computer, diving deep into conspiracy websites and cautionary tales, building a case against my career one Google search at a time. Kevin, do you think I'm lying about my job? The pause stretches long enough to hurt. I think you're successful, and I think Mom and Dad don't understand how someone our age can make that much money legitimately. That's not what I asked. Alex, he sighs, and in that sound I hear years of family dynamics, the careful balance he maintains between supporting me and keeping peace at home. I've never seen your office. I've never met your coworkers. When you talk about work, it sounds real, but you're asking me to believe you make more money than Dad, manage hundreds of millions of dollars, and work with billionaire clients at 26. It's a lot. The betrayal cuts deeper because it comes from Kevin, the one family member I thought understood me. So, you think I'm lying too? I think I don't know what to think, and I think you should come home and clear this up instead of getting angry at everyone who loves you. After I hang up, the silence in my apartment feels different. Not peaceful, but hollow. I return to my laptop and continue building my defense. Because, apparently, that's what love requires now. I draft an email to Margaret Stone, requesting a formal letter of employment verification, professional letterhead, official signature, my title and salary clearly stated. The kind of document that exists specifically for situations requiring proof of employment, though I never imagined needing it for family. I compile my performance reviews from the past 4 years. Each one documents specific achievements, successful client acquisitions, portfolio performance metrics, leadership development milestones. Together, they tell the story of someone progressing steadily through corporate ranks based on measurable results. My phone rings again. Mom this time. Her contact photo from our last family vacation showing her smiling in front of the Portland Rose Garden. The image feels like a relic of a different era when family relationships didn't require legal documentation. Alexandra, I hope you slept better than I did. What do you want, Mom? I want my daughter back.
The one who used to tell me everything, who didn't get defensive when her family showed concern. You mean the daughter who didn't challenge your assumptions about what she could achieve? I mean the daughter who trusted her parents' judgment and didn't think she knew better than people with 30 years more life experience. I add another item to my growing list. Contact information for 3 major clients willing to provide character references. People who've entrusted me with their retirement funds and investment strategies, who know my professional reputation better than my own family apparently does. Mom, I'm putting together documentation that proves my employment and career achievements. Official letters, performance reviews, client testimonials. When I'm finished, you'll have everything you need to verify that my job is real, my salary is legitimate, and your daughter isn't involved in anything illegal. Oh, honey. Her voice turned sad, almost pitying. Do you really think paperwork is going to solve this? Anyone can create fake documents these days. The internet is full of tutorials for making official-looking letterhead and forged credentials. That statement stops me cold. She's preemptively dismissing evidence she hasn't even seen, constructing reasons to doubt documentation before it exists. The goalposts aren't just moving, they're disappearing entirely. So no matter what proof I provide, you'll find reasons to question it? I'm saying that if you're really involved in something questionable, they would have given you convincing paperwork to show family members. That's how these scams work, sweetheart. They make everything look legitimate. Then what would convince you? What evidence would you actually accept? The question hangs between us while Mom considers, and in her hesitation, I hear the truth she won't say aloud. Nothing will convince her because my success contradicts her fundamental beliefs about how the world works.
I think you should take a leave of absence and come home for a few months. Get some distance from this situation and really examine whether what you think is happening is actually happening. I'm not abandoning my career because you can't believe I'm successful. Alexandra Grace Chen. Your father and I have discussed this extensively. We're prepared to drive to Chicago and bring you home ourselves if necessary. The threat lands like a bucket of cold water. Bring me home? I'm 26 years old, not 16. You're 26 years old and potentially involved in something that could destroy your life. If you won't protect yourself, we'll do it for you. I stand up from my desk, pacing to the window where normal people continue their normal Saturday routines. A couple walks their dog along the sidewalk below. The man carrying a coffee cup, the woman pointing at something in a shop window. Simple interactions in a world where people aren't required to prove their basic existence. Mom, I need you to listen very carefully. I am not coming home. I am not taking a leave of absence. I am not abandoning my life because you've decided it's fictional. Then you're choosing this imaginary career over your family? I'm choosing reality over your fears. Fine. Her voice turns cold, formally disappointed. But when this all falls apart, and it will fall apart, don't expect us to clean up the mess. You're making your bed, Alexandra. You'll have to lie in it. The call ends with that particular finality that feels like a door slamming. I look at my laptop screen, at the half-finished documentation package, and make a decision that feels both inevitable and terrifying. I'm not just going to prove my career exists. I'm going to make it impossible for them to ignore. I open a new browser window and navigate to the Blackstone corporate website, clicking through to the About Our Team section that features senior staff profiles. My photo isn't there. Junior analysts rarely get featured. But I know exactly how to change that. I draft an email to our marketing department proposing a spotlight article about my recent client acquisitions and portfolio performance metrics. The kind of feature story that gets shared on LinkedIn and archived permanently on our corporate website, creating a digital footprint that no amount of skepticism can erase. Next, I email the Northwestern Alumni Relations Office,
accepting their invitation for the magazine profile, and requesting expedited publication. My achievements will be verified, documented, and distributed to thousands of alumni who can attest to my professional standing. Finally, I composed a message to 3 industry contacts about speaking opportunities at upcoming conferences. My name on professional programs, my expertise showcased for peers, my reputation established in venues my parents can easily verify. By the time I finish, it's nearly noon. My apartment feels different. Not like a refuge anymore, but like a command center. The quiet space where I've built my independent life now serves as headquarters for defending that life against the people who should celebrate it. My phone shows 6 missed calls from Portland area codes and a text from Kevin. Dad's researching plane tickets to Chicago. They're serious about coming to get you. I look out at the city that's become my home, at the skyline that represents everything I've worked to achieve, and feel something settle into place. Not peace, exactly, but resolve. They want proof? They'll get more proof than they know what to do with. The war for my professional identity starts now. Monday morning brings the first wave of responses to my documentation campaign, but not the ones I expected. I'm reviewing quarterly projections when my assistant, Rachel, appears in my doorway, her usually cheerful expression clouded with confusion. "Alex, I've had 3 strange calls this morning. People claiming to be your family members asking detailed questions about your employment status and salary." My stomach drops. What kind of questions? Everything from your exact job title to whether you actually work here or just rent office space. The last caller wanted to know if we do background checks on employees and whether your credentials have been verified by the company. I close my laptop with deliberate calm, though my hands want to shake. What did you tell them? Company policy, we don't discuss employee information with unauthorized parties. But Alex, they seem to know personal details about you. Your college, your apartment address, even your car model. It was unsettling. The invasion feels like a violation, my private life dissected by people who refuse to accept its legitimacy. I imagine my parents at their kitchen table, notebooks spread with my personal information, conducting what they probably call due diligence on their own daughter. If anyone else calls, please forward them directly to me.
Rachel nods but lingers in the doorway. Is everything okay? These callers seemed genuinely concerned about your welfare, but their questions were bizarre. Almost like they thought you were pretending to work here. Before I can respond, my desk phone rings. The display shows an external number with a Portland area code. Alexandra Chen? Ms. Chen, this is Detective Robert Morrison with the Portland Police Bureau. I'm calling regarding a welfare check request filed by Douglas and Catherine Rodriguez. The words hit like physical blows. Police. Welfare check. My parents have escalated beyond family intervention to law enforcement involvement. I'm sorry, what? Your parents contacted our department expressing concern about your mental health and possible involvement in fraudulent activities. They've requested that we perform a wellness check at your current address in Chicago. I lean back in my chair, watching normal office life continue around me through my glass walls. Jennifer is analyzing market data. David is in a client meeting. Margaret Stone walks past carrying files, probably heading to another multi-million-dollar strategy session. None of them know that my family has just reported me to the police as a potentially mentally unstable victim of financial fraud. Detective Morrison, I appreciate my parents' concern, but I'm a competent adult living independently in Chicago. I'm currently at work managing client portfolios worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Yes, ma'am, they mentioned you might say something like that. They've provided documentation suggesting that your claimed employment and salary figures are inconsistent with reality.
What documentation? Internet searches showing no mention of your name on your supposed employer's website, phone calls to your company that couldn't verify your employment, and tax documents they believe may be fraudulent. My parents have built a case file. They've documented their investigation and presented it to law enforcement as evidence of my delusion or criminal involvement. The systematic nature of their doubt feels more devastating than the doubt itself. Detective Morrison, I'd like to schedule a formal interview where I can provide employment verification, performance reviews, and client testimonials proving my professional standing. Would that resolve your concerns? That's not necessary, ma'am. We're simply required to make contact and verify your safety. However, your parents have also expressed interest in hiring a private investigator to look into your situation more thoroughly. Private investigator? The escalation continues beyond my worst expectations. Not only do they doubt my career, they're prepared to pay professionals to investigate me like a criminal suspect. I need to go. I end the call before Detective Morrison can respond. My hands shake as I dial Kevin's number, needing to understand how far this investigation has spread through my family network. Alex, thank God, Mom and Dad have been calling everyone. Aunts, uncles, cousins, family friends. They're telling people you've been recruited into some kind of financial cult and need an intervention. A cult? Dad found some article online about investment scams that recruit young professionals with promises of high salaries and prestigious titles. He's convinced that's what happened to you. I think of my CFA certification hanging on my office wall, earned through 18 months of intensive study and a 6-hour examination that tests mastery of investment analysis, portfolio management, and ethical standards. The idea that this represents cult recruitment would be laughable if my family weren't destroying my reputation with it. Kevin, they called the police on me.
I know. Dad thinks if you're in some kind of psychological crisis, you need professional help to see reality clearly. I need help seeing reality clearly? Alex, you have to understand how this looks from their perspective. You claim to make more money than successful professionals with decades of experience. You work for a company that won't acknowledge you exist. Your lifestyle seems funded by income that doesn't match their understanding of entry-level finance work. So, you still think I'm lying? I think something doesn't add up, and instead of getting angry, maybe you should help us understand what's really going on. The conditional trust, I'll believe you if you prove yourself, feels like quicksand. No matter what evidence I provide, there will always be reasons to question it, always new doubts to address, always another test to pass before earning basic credibility. Kevin, I need you to do something for me. Go to Northwestern's alumni website and look up my profile. It lists my current employer and position. That's independently verified information from my university. Okay, hold on. I hear typing in the background, then silence. Alex, I don't see your profile here. What do you mean? I searched for Alexandra Chen and nothing comes up. Are you sure you have a profile listed? My blood goes cold. I navigate to the Northwestern alumni directory on my computer while Kevin remains on the line. My profile appeared there 3 days ago when I verified the information, but now the search returns no search results found for Alexandra Chen. Try searching for Alexandra Rodriguez, I say, using my maiden name. Still nothing. Impossible. I updated my information through the official alumni portal. The profile existed. I screenshotted it as part of my documentation package. But now it's gone, erased from the system as if I never attended Northwestern at all. Kevin, something's wrong with their website. I had a profile there last week. Alex, his voice carries the particular gentleness reserved for people who might be mentally unstable. Maybe you thought you had a profile, but I screenshotted it. I have documentation proving it existed. Anyone can fake screenshots. There are tutorials online for creating realistic-looking fake websites and documents. The accusation that I'm technologically sophisticated enough to fake my own alumni profile while simultaneously naive enough to fall for financial scams reveals the impossible double bind my family has created. I'm either too smart or too stupid, but never exactly right. My desk phone rings again. This time it's Margaret Stone's direct line. Alexandra, could you come to my office, please? We need to discuss a situation that's developed. The walk to Margaret's office feels like approaching an execution. Through her glass walls, I can see her seated across from a man in a dark suit that doesn't look like any client or colleague I recognize. Alexandra, please sit down. This is Agent Harrison from the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. The world tilts sideways. FBI. Financial crimes. The meeting I've been dreading since my parents' accusations began. The moment when their doubt becomes an official investigation. Miss Chen, Agent Harrison says, consulting a small notebook, we've received reports suggesting possible irregularities in your employment status and financial documentation. I'm here to verify your legitimate connection to this firm. Agent Harrison, I've worked here for 4 years. I can provide performance reviews, client testimonials, and salary verification. Yes, we'll need to see all of that. However, I should mention that we've also received reports suggesting you may be experiencing delusions about your professional status. Margaret Stone's expression remains carefully neutral, but I can see the questions forming behind her eyes. My own boss is now wondering whether I'm mentally stable enough to manage client portfolios worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Margaret, I say, turning to face her directly, I promoted you to senior analyst 8 months ago based on my performance metrics. The Morrison account alone has generated $12 million in revenue under my management. Are you questioning my competence? Of course not, Alexandra, but these allegations are serious enough that we need to address them formally. Agent Harrison opens his briefcase and removes a folder thick with documents. We'll need to examine your employee records, verify your credentials, and interview colleagues who can attest to your actual responsibilities within the firm.
This is insane, I say, standing up from my chair. My own family has convinced federal agents that I'm either mentally ill or criminally involved because my salary doesn't match their expectations. Ms. Chen, if you're experiencing psychological difficulties, there are resources available to help you. No one is suggesting criminal intent on your part. The careful phrasing, psychological difficulties, resources available, reveals the narrative my family has constructed. I'm not a criminal, I'm a victim of my own delusions, someone who needs intervention rather than prosecution. I don't need psychological help. I need my family to stop treating my success like evidence of mental illness. Margaret speaks carefully, her words chosen with the precision of someone protecting both the company and an employee. Alexandra, why don't you take the rest of the week off while we sort through the situation? Paid leave, of course, just to give everyone space to resolve these concerns. Paid leave, the corporate equivalent of being sent to your room until the adults figure out what's wrong with you. My career, 4 years of building professional credibility, suspended because my parents couldn't believe their daughter might be successful. I have client presentations scheduled, the Morrison quarterly review, the Yamamoto Group follow-up meeting. David will handle your client obligations temporarily. The dismissal stings more than any family doubt ever could. My professional achievements, the expertise I've built over 4 years, set aside while investigators determine whether I'm competent to manage other people's money. I gather my things under Agent Harrison's watchful gaze, feeling like a suspect in my own life. The elevator ride to the parking garage passes in silence, my reflection in the steel doors showing someone who looks exactly like a successful financial analyst, but apparently isn't convincing enough to maintain her family's trust. My phone buzzes with a text from Dad. The private investigator we hired found some concerning information about your company. We need to talk immediately. Private investigator, FBI investigation, suspended from work, police welfare checks. The resistance to my professional identity has become a full-scale assault, and I'm losing ground faster than I can defend it. But as I drive home through Chicago traffic, passing the financial district where I've built my career, one thought crystallizes with absolute clarity.
They haven't won yet. The war is just beginning. Tuesday morning finds me in an unexpected location, the law offices of Brennan and Associates, 30 floors above Michigan Avenue in a building that screams expensive legal representation. Sarah Brennan sits across from me, her silver hair pulled back in a way that suggests decades of courtroom experience, her desk arranged with the kind of meticulous precision that comes from handling complex litigation. Ms. Chen, I've reviewed the materials you provided, and I have to say, this is one of the most unusual cases I've encountered in 20 years of employment law. I've spent the past 18 hours assembling what Sarah calls the nuclear option, a comprehensive legal response to my family's systematic campaign against my professional reputation. Bank statements showing direct deposits from Blackstone Financial, performance evaluations signed by Margaret Stone, client testimonials from 3 different investment accounts, my CFA certification with verification codes, tax returns from 4 consecutive years showing progressive salary increases. The documentation is irrefutable, Sarah continues, spreading papers across her mahogany desk. You are demonstrably employed, demonstrably competent, and demonstrably earning the income your family refuses to believe. What concerns me is the potential damage to your professional standing. My boss put me on paid leave pending an FBI investigation that my parents initiated. Yes, and that's where we have grounds for legal action. Your parents have made defamatory statements to law enforcement, federal agencies, and your employer. They've interfered with your employment relationship and damaged your professional reputation through false allegations. Sarah pulls out a legal pad and begins taking notes with the efficient movements of someone who's built a career on methodical preparation. Tell me about the private investigator they hired. I slide a business card across her desk, the one Kevin forwarded from our parents yesterday. Mitchell Security Services. Apparently, they've been investigating my alleged employment for the past week. Have they contacted you directly? Not yet, but Kevin says they've been asking neighbors about my lifestyle, calling my apartment building's management office, and requesting financial records from my bank.
Sarah's expression hardens. That crosses several legal lines. Private investigators have strict limitations on what information they can obtain and how they can obtain it. If they're impersonating family members or using false pretenses to access your private information, we're looking at potential criminal violations. The legal complexity feels both overwhelming and validating. My family's doubt has generated real consequences that require professional intervention to resolve. Part of me feels vindicated that their behavior has legal implications. Another part feels devastated that family relationships have deteriorated to the point of requiring lawyers. What are my options? Several. We can file a cease and desist order to stop the investigation. We can pursue defamation claims for the false statements made to authorities. We can request that law enforcement formally close their inquiry based on the documentation you've provided. And we can demand that your employer reinstate you immediately with a formal apology. Each option represents an escalation I never imagined needing. Legal action against my own parents feels like crossing a bridge that can never be rebuilt. But continuing to absorb their attacks feels equally impossible. I want to start with the cease and desist order. Stop the private investigator first, then address the other issues. Sarah nods approvingly. Smart strategy. We'll also send copies of your employment verification to the FBI and the Portland Police Department, requesting immediate closure of their investigations. I'll contact your employer's legal department and recommend they reinstate you pending resolution of this matter. She begins drafting documents with practiced efficiency, occasionally asking clarifying questions about dates and details. Watching her work, I feel something I haven't experienced in weeks, the sense that someone is taking my professional standing seriously, treating the assault on my career as the legitimate crisis it represents. My phone buzzes with a call from an unknown Chicago number. Sarah nods for me to answer. Alexander Chen? Miss Chen, this is Detective Lisa Martinez with the Chicago Police Department. We've received a request from Portland authorities to conduct a welfare check at your residence. When would it be convenient for you to meet with us?
Another welfare check. The investigation has spread to multiple jurisdictions, creating an official paper trail that portrays me as someone whose mental health and safety require law enforcement monitoring. Detective Martinez, I'm currently meeting with my attorney to address false allegations made by family members. Would you prefer to coordinate with my legal counsel? Sarah reaches for the phone and I hand it over gratefully. Detective Martinez, this is Sarah Brennan, Ms. Chen's attorney. We're preparing documentation that definitively proves my client's employment status and mental competence. We'd like to schedule a formal meeting where we can present evidence and request closure of this investigation. The conversation continues for several minutes, with Sarah establishing professional protocols and timelines. When she hangs up, her expression has shifted to something more serious. Alexandra, the scope of this investigation is broader than you realize. Portland police have shared their concerns with multiple agencies. There's now a federal financial crimes inquiry, a local wellness check, and apparently a request for your medical records based on allegations of psychological distress. Medical records? The violation feels complete. Not only my professional life under scrutiny, but my personal health information being requested by authorities who've been convinced I'm mentally unstable. Can they access my medical records? Not without a court order or your consent, but the fact that they're requesting them indicates how seriously they're taking your family's allegations. I think about my last physical exam 6 months ago, my dental checkup in July, the routine healthcare maintenance of someone with excellent insurance through a legitimate employer. All of it now potential evidence in a case about my mental fitness? Sarah, I need this to stop. All of it. The investigations, the allegations, the interference with my career. Whatever it takes. She leans back in her chair, studying me with the assessment of someone who's evaluated countless clients facing personal crises. The nuclear option involves filing a comprehensive legal action against your parents for defamation, harassment, and interference with employment. It would create a public record of their false allegations and potentially result in financial damages. It would also make family reconciliation extremely difficult. And if I don't take legal action, the investigations will continue until authorities either find evidence supporting your family's claims, which they won't, or until they conclude the allegations are unfounded. That could take months and leave permanent questions about your professional competence in official records.
The choice crystallizes with brutal clarity. Legal warfare against my family or professional destruction through official investigation. Neither option preserves the relationships I once valued, but one protects the career I've built from scratch. File everything. Cease and desist, defamation claims, interference with employment. I want a paper trail showing that their allegations are false and legally actionable. Sarah begins assembling documents with increased urgency. I'll need character references from colleagues, documentation of any financial losses resulting from your suspension, and a detailed timeline of your family's escalating interference. For the next 2 hours, we build a legal fortress around my professional identity. Sarah contacts Agent Harrison to provide employment verification and request case closure. She drafts letters to my employer demanding immediate reinstatement. She files formal complaints about the private investigator's potentially illegal activities. Most importantly, she creates an official record that Alexandra Chen is a legitimate professional whose career has been damaged by false allegations from family members who refuse to accept her success. By noon, copies of legal documents are being delivered to addresses in Portland and Chicago. The private investigator receives a cease and desist order. The FBI gets comprehensive employment verification. My parents get formal notice that their actions constitute defamation and harassment under federal and state law. What happens now? I ask, as Sarah organizes the final paperwork. Now we wait for responses. Your parents will likely be advised by their own attorney to stop all investigative activities. Law enforcement will close their inquiries once they review the documentation. Your employer will face potential liability if they don't reinstate you immediately. And my family. Sarah's expression softens slightly. Family relationships are outside my expertise, Alexandra, But I can tell you that some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. The question you need to consider is whether preserving those relationships is worth continuing to absorb their attacks on your professional life. I leave the law office with a leather portfolio containing copies of every document that proves my existence as a successful financial analyst. Legal protection for my career, professional vindication for my achievements, and official documentation that my family's doubt has crossed into actionable territory. But as I walk through downtown Chicago, passing the building where I should be working instead of fighting for my right to work, the victory feels Pyrrhic. I've defended my professional identity at the cost of family relationships that took 26 years to build. My phone shows 17 missed calls from Portland area codes and a text from Kevin. Dad got served with legal papers at his office. The whole family is freaking out. What have you done? What I've done is exactly what I should have done years ago. Refuse to let anyone, even family, diminish my accomplishments or question my reality. The war isn't over, but for the first time since this began, I'm fighting with weapons that match the scale of their assault. And I'm winning. 3 weeks after filing legal action, I stand in Margaret Stone's office on a crisp November morning, watching her review the formal closure documents from both the FBI and Chicago Police Department. Sunlight streams through her windows, illuminating the papers that officially clear me of any wrongdoing and confirm what I've known all along. My career is legitimate, my achievements are real, and my professional standing is unquestionable. Alexandra, I owe you an apology, Margaret says, setting down the final report. We should have stood behind you from the beginning instead of allowing external pressure to compromise your position here. I understand the company's concerns. False allegations about financial crimes require investigation. Perhaps, but we've worked with you for 4 years. We've seen your competence, your integrity, your results. That should have carried more weight than anonymous accusations from people who've never met you professionally. She slides a document across her desk, my formal reinstatement letter, backdated to eliminate any gap in my employment record. Along with it, a revised performance evaluation, acknowledging the extraordinary circumstances I've navigated while maintaining my professional responsibilities. There's something else, Margaret continues. The partnership track we discussed before this situation developed, we're accelerating that timeline. Your handling of this crisis demonstrated exactly the kind of leadership and resilience we value in senior management. Partnership. The goal I've been working toward for 4 years, now within reach partly because of how I defended my right to pursue it. The irony doesn't lose me that my family's attempt to destroy my career has actually advanced it. I'm honored by the confidence, Margaret. When would you like to discuss the transition plan? Next month. David will brief you on the client portfolio transfers and the new responsibilities you'll be assuming.
I leave her office with official vindication and an accelerated career trajectory, but the professional victory feels incomplete without addressing the personal wreckage that made it necessary. My phone has been silent for days. No calls from Portland, no texts from Kevin, no voicemails from parents who've learned that their daughter's success is legally protected and professionally validated. The silence speaks louder than their previous accusations ever did. That evening, I sit in my Lincoln Park apartment with Sarah Brennan's final legal summary spread across my dining table. The private investigator has been barred from further contact. The FBI case has been closed with a notation that the allegations were unfounded and potentially malicious. The Portland Police Department has removed my name from their welfare check database. Most significantly, my parents have signed a formal agreement acknowledging that their allegations were false and agreeing to cease all interference with my professional life. The document is clinical, legal, and utterly devoid of the warmth that once characterized family communication. My laptop chimes with an email notification. Northwestern University Alumni Relations. Subject line, Featured Alumni Profile Publication. The magazine article is everything I hoped it would be, a full-page feature with professional photos, detailed descriptions of my achievements, and quotes from colleagues about my analytical skills and client relationship management. The kind of recognition that establishes permanent professional credibility and creates a searchable digital record of my accomplishments.
But as I read through the article, highlighting my rapid career progression and innovative investment strategies, I realize something has fundamentally shifted in how I view success. The external validation feels less crucial now, less necessary for my sense of professional worth. The crisis forced me to defend my achievements so thoroughly that I no longer need others to believe in them for me to know they're real. My phone rings with a number I don't recognize. A Chicago area code, but not one in my contacts. Alexandra? This is Dr. Patricia Williams, Dean of the Northwestern Business School. I straightened in my chair, wondering if this is another investigation, another authority figure who needs convincing about my professional legitimacy. I'm calling about the alumni profile we just published. The response has been remarkable. Current students asking about your career path, prospective students inquiring about our finance program, and industry professionals commenting on your innovative approaches to sustainable investment portfolios. That's wonderful to hear. We'd like to invite you to speak at our Spring Career Symposium. Share your experience with students who are considering similar paths. You've become something of a role model for young women entering finance. Role model. The phrase carries weight I didn't expect. Students who might face their own family skepticism about unconventional career choices, their own battles to be taken seriously in fields that don't match traditional expectations. I'd be honored to participate. After the call ends, I walk to my balcony and look out over the Chicago skyline. The city lights spread endlessly, each one representing someone's work, someone's contribution, someone's piece of the vast economic ecosystem that I'm now permanently part of. My place in this system is no longer questionable. It's documented, verified, and legally protected. But the view also reminds me of the distance I've traveled, not just geographically from Portland to Chicago, but emotionally, from seeking family approval to creating my own measures of success. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. Alex, this is Kevin using Mom's phone. Mine got disconnected. Can we talk? The message sits on my screen for several minutes while I decide whether to respond. Kevin represents the last possible bridge to the family relationships I once valued, but also the same conditional support that proved unreliable when I needed it most. I dialed the number. Alex, thank you for calling back. How are you, Kevin? Confused, ashamed, trying to understand how everything went so wrong. His voice carries a weight I haven't heard before. Not the careful neutrality he maintained during the crisis, but genuine regret. Mom and Dad hired an attorney after they got served with your legal papers. He told them their actions could have resulted in criminal charges for harassment and filing false police reports. They had no idea how serious the situation had become. They convinced federal agents I was mentally unstable, Kevin. They cost me weeks of work and damaged my professional reputation. The seriousness was evident from the beginning. I know. The attorney showed them all the documentation you provided. The employment verification, the performance reviews, the client testimonials. Everything that proved your career is exactly what you said it was. And what did they say when they saw the evidence? Dad cried. I've never seen him cry before, Alex. He realized he'd been so convinced that your success was impossible that he couldn't see it was real. The image of my father crying over documentation of my achievements feels surreal. The man whose approval I sought for 26 years, finally convinced not by my explanations, but by legal papers prepared to defend against his own accusations. Mom keeps asking if there's any way to undo what happened. She wants to call you, but the attorney said any contact might violate the legal agreement you signed. The agreement prohibits interference with my professional life. Personal communication isn't restricted. Would you be willing to talk to them? Not to forgive everything immediately, but to see if there's a way forward. I considered the question while watching evening traffic navigate the streets below. The family relationships that shaped my first 26 years are probably beyond repair in their original form. Too much doubt has been expressed, too many accusations made, too much legal action taken for things to return to what they were. But perhaps something new could be built. Relationships based on my adult identity rather than childhood dynamics.
Interactions that acknowledge my professional competence rather than questioning it. I'll think about it, Kevin, but any conversation would have very different ground rules than before. What kind of ground rules? My career is off limits for criticism or suggestions. My financial decisions are my own business. My lifestyle choices don't require family approval. And my professional achievements are celebrated, not questioned. That seems reasonable. It should have been reasonable 4 years ago when I started this job. It should have been reasonable when I got promoted. It should have been reasonable when I told you my salary. The fact that it requires legal enforcement now shows how far things deteriorated. We talk for another 20 minutes about the possibility of rebuilding family relationships on a foundation of mutual respect rather than conditional acceptance. Kevin seems genuinely committed to change, though I remain skeptical about my parents' ability to view me as an independent adult rather than a daughter whose choices need their approval. When I hang up, the apartment feels different. Not lonely, but peacefully autonomous. The space I've created reflects my own taste, my own priorities, my own definition of success. The reading chair by the window, the framed degrees and certifications, the view of a city that rewards competence over conformity. I open my laptop and begin drafting my Northwestern Symposium presentation. The topic practically writes itself: building professional identity when family expectations don't match professional realities. The speech will address the psychological challenge of pursuing success that exceeds others' expectations, the importance of documented achievements over verbal approval, and the sometimes necessary process of legally protecting professional identity from personal relationships that become destructive. Most importantly, it will encourage young professionals to trust their own competence even when others doubt it, to build careers based on their capabilities rather than others' comfort levels, and to understand that some relationships may need to evolve or end for professional growth to continue. As I type, I think about the students who will hear this presentation, young women who might face family skepticism about ambitious career goals, professionals who might need to choose between family approval and professional advancement, anyone who's been told their success is too much, too fast, too unrealistic for their background. The crisis that nearly destroyed my family relationships has given me something unexpected: a story worth sharing, wisdom earned through legal battles and professional vindication, and the unshakable knowledge that my achievements belong to me regardless of who believes in them. Outside my window, Chicago continues its nocturnal rhythm of ambition and achievement. Inside, I continue writing about the sometimes difficult process of claiming your place in that world, even when the people who raised you can't imagine you belong there. Some victories require you to fight not just for success, but for the right to be successful. The battle scars become credentials in their own right, proof that you've defended your dreams against every force that tried to diminish them, including the ones that claimed to love you.
Looking for more? We've got 2 amazing stories ready for you right on screen. If this one touched you, these are absolutely worth your time. Click to watch them now. And hey, subscribe and hit that bell to never miss our latest uploads.